Okie dokie, boys and girls. So today is gonna be a bit of a lighter workout. It's gonna be a pull workout, front lever pull-ups. But the reason it's gonna be lighter is because soreness has been piling up in my body. I feel my legs, I feel my back especially, and I feel my shoulders. So it's time to take a bit of an off time or a deload, I guess, for a couple of days. Do some lighter work, not as intense as usual. But that doesn't really mean you can't go heavy, right? And maybe that's a bit confusing if you hear it. But what I mean by that is, well, usually if you're training, your strong parts are able to take over your weak parts or are able to compensate for your weak parts. Or at least for me, because in my style of training, I do compensate quite a lot. My form breaks down quite a lot, right? I don't care about that. I use momentum. But when you use that momentum, when you do those compensations, when your form breaks down, basically you're allowing those strong parts to take over from your weak parts of your body, and it's going to result in more general fatigue, right? It's called the horse cocking, it's in the gym. They'll say it's like bro lifting or ego lifting, and then the opposite is science-based lifting in the gym, where you have like perfect form and you do everything with perfect technique. The same is true in every sport, right? You can do this in calisthenics as well. So for me, when I do front lever pull-ups, for example, oftentimes I'll use a bit of momentum, the form isn't perfect. And today I'm going to go a bit more of a science-based route, a bit more focused on the form, but that doesn't mean I can't go heavy. So I am going to add weight. I might even add ankle weights, and just see what happens. I'm just not going to allow myself to use momentum to get myself up in the pull-up, and that way the strong parts of my body will not be able to compensate as much for the weak parts, and that will result in less general fatigue, aka more ability to recover later on, which results in, getting better again, recovering, getting stronger, and so on. So first of all, let's do a bit of a warm-up set here. There you go. Just a couple pull-ups, body weight to see how it's feeling. I mean, I don't feel weak, but just my lats, my lats are screaming, like these parts. Oh, I can fucking barely put them up now, my hands. Like these muscles here are used for front lever when you hold it, and I've been grazing the groove, holding front lever twice in the morning, twice in the evening, every day, and I just feel it so much in my lats. So an easier day today will definitely benefit me in order to get the soreness gone a bit, because the last thing I want to hammer or want to do now is hammer the lats even more. I want to loosen them up so that in a couple of days I can do another hold training. So let's get started with 5 sets of front lever pull-ups. I'm going to superset them with some straight arm pull-ups or scapula pull-ups in the front lever as well, just to get these muscles stronger, the retraction in the front lever stronger. That's going to help me out in the front lever hold as well. So same style as the last pull-up training, I would say, but the difference is going to be that hopefully this one is less intense. All right, I think I'm gonna do 3 sets of these 7 pull-ups to touch, and then 3 pull-ups extra straight arm. It's gonna be the good intensity. Alright, on these next sets, the 2 sets that are remaining, I'm gonna do a superset with some pull-ups and some presses. Of course, trying to maintain the form, keeping my legs low and stuff like that. Let's see how it goes. One more set. Okay, so pull-ups have been done. Now this bar is standing here menacingly, and you know what that means. It means we're gonna do some front lever holds, you know. Every training, I like to do something specific to my goal. So my goal is 45 seconds of front lever, and yes, I did train the front lever with those 5 sets of pull-ups, but I didn't train holds specifically. I didn't train endurance specifically. And you know, when you have a hold or when you have a goal, doing something specifically towards that goal every training is going to be really beneficial, because it's going to, one, allow you to see where you're at all times, but two, it's also just going to help you keep the momentum going. So even though I'm a bit tired already, you know, I did 5 sets of pull-ups, and even though I went lighter, you know, I focused on form, I didn't compensate, I'm still tired, right? I am going to be able to recover, don't get me wrong, but still, it has an influence. So one set of 45 seconds front lever here, I'm gonna drop down, you know, to easier progressions when needed, and I'm not gonna go to my max because, like I said, I want to recover. And even though this 45-second set is quite hard, you know, it's not like I'm going to do 5 sets. You know, last training I did 5 sets of these 45-second hold sets, and that's fucking intense. That's why I'm tired right now. But today only 1 set. You know, it's limited volume, limited intensity, because I'm gonna keep the progressions down. You know, I'm gonna go down in the progression in time before, you know, I get tired, basically. So it's going to be okay. You know, I'm going to be able to recover from this, but at the same time stimulate my muscles to build some endurance. All right, let's go. Whew. Okie dokie. So that's it for today's workout. You know, lighter than usual, but not light by just the usual standard. I would say. You know, the pull-ups were still tiring, and the rep ranges were low. I went quite close to my max on those last few sets of pull-ups, and even the last hold set, right? That one hold set, it was quite difficult, more difficult than expected actually. And that's just a little fun lever thingy I want to say now, but the reason it felt more difficult than I expected was because my retraction muscles were already tired. So I was in the front lever and my lats are fine, which is good, right? My lats are strong, but my retraction muscles, you know, the muscles that hold your arms basically to the back of your body, those were giving out. And that's because during the pull-up sets, I was doing scapula pull-ups as well, you know, I was doing the straight arm pull-ups, and those really tire out the retraction muscles. So one, good to know that doing those scapular pull-ups trains those muscles, those retraction muscles. but also good to know that, if they were weak, they would give out. So I have a reason to train them, and that's very good. But nonetheless, today was more focused on form. That doesn't mean my form was perfect. I don't mean that, but it just means that I was using less momentum than I usually do. I was less in the ego lifting mode today, and that allowed me to just put the strain on all of my muscles equally instead of just compensating with the strong parts of my body. And this recovery workout, it's still gonna build towards my front lever goals. It's gonna allow me to recover at the same time, but I think it's very important that I still train the front lever. Let's say that today I wanted to do a conventional light workout, high reps, not to the max, low rest time, just get the blood flowing with some pull-ups, right? At that point, am I doing a recovery workout or am I holding back recovery? Because the pull-ups will not work or will not basically build my front lever up, right? They don't work for my front lever. They work different muscles or the same muscles in different ways. So I'm getting my back muscles a bit tired again if I do the normal pull-up, but I'm not building the specific patterns for the front lever. So at that point, in my opinion, most of the time, you're just wasting energy because, like I mentioned, right, the retraction muscles in the front lever are important. I just felt it. You can feel it as well if you give it a go. But those retraction muscles from front to back, those are not being trained in the same way in the normal pull-up. So if I were to just do pull-ups, yes, you have retraction like this, up to down, but it's a different way to stimulate your muscles. So if I were to have done a light pull-up workout, normal pull-up today, yes, I would have continued to recover, but actually it would have held me back a little bit because I had the small recovery for the pull-ups and nothing to gain for it on the front lever. While now I have to recover a tiny bit from the front lever workout, just like I would have from the pull-up workout, but I also have gains towards the front lever. And that's kind of why I think these light workouts are important. That's why I think that there is a benefit to each style of training. You have the ego lifting bro lifter, right? The bro lifting style, and you have the science-based style, right? They both have their usages. So I like to use them both. When I'm tired, I tend to gravitate towards the science-based to get everything with correct technique, get the muscles working the way they should. And when I have energy, well, I can just go balls to the wall and do some ego lifting, right? But that's it for today's workout. And was a very short one. I mean, 6 sets in total. It took me like half an hour, maybe not even that. But nonetheless, very effective. And like I said, I don't want to push myself too hard. So now what I'm going to do the next couple of days is basically focus on loosening up the lats because holy fucking shit, they are sore. So if I can get that fixed, I think I'm in good shape to do a front lever hold. So I'll see you tomorrow it's going to be a leg day. And now I'm just going to have a shower and some breakfast. No surprises there.